You know,
Don't use them ever. Once you're out of debt, just throw them away. You don't need them. You
no,
don't need credit.
you absolutely need credit. Do not listen to that advice.
You don't need it.
You absolutely need credit for everything. You need credit to buy a house. You need credit to buy a car. You need credit for just to get approved for any kind of loan. If you need, I don't know, whatever you may need a loan for, but you definitely need credit.
You know, if you have a really high credit score, but don't get me wrong. Look, if you've already built it, that's great, right? Don't have the debt and have the great credit score, that's awesome. But having this great credit score, it's just really a score of, hey, I like to have debt, like, and I pay it back, right? That's all that.
I would love to know why you think we don't need a credit score. You are a real estate agent. You should know that the better the credit score.
You can get a loan with you can get a loan with no credit, right? It's a completely different process, and it's not.
Again, and you're going to pay a higher interest rate.
No, that's not exactly true, right? If it's a longer process, it's not the same process, and you're going to have to put more money down, right? If you're thinking you're going to come in with 3% with no credit, absolutely. Either one, you're not going to get approved for this loan, or you're going to pay a very, very ridiculous interest rate, right? So I go back to what I said. Is it easy? Absolutely not. There's going to be some sacrifices to make, but to say that you can't do it is ridiculous.
But why would you put yourself in a position where you have to do something the extra long, difficult way when our country, the United States, is set up to have a credit score? And in a lot of other countries, you don't need a credit score. So, you know, for those of you who are listening in other countries, you know, this is not applicable to you. This is, maybe just an American thing or whatever it may be, but our country is set up to work with a credit system. So why not put yourself in a position where you can have the opportunities come to you easily? You know, like, why put yourself in a position where you have to work 3 times as hard when you could work your way up towards a good credit score, which once you've learned how to, again, budget and manage your finances, having a good credit score is not difficult. You learn how to pay off your debts, you learn how to use your credit cards so you pay them off, and keeping your credit score high is not difficult once you've learned how to be responsible with them. When you're learning, it goes up and down, and that's totally normal. But once you've gotten the hang of it, it's not difficult to keep, you know, a decent credit score. So I would say if you're listening to this and you live in the US, absolutely take care of your credit score, do your best to lift it and get it higher. Because like I said, this country is set up to work with that. So put yourself in a position where you don't have to stress about, oh my God, I have to go through all of this and now I have to save up $20,000 or $40,000 for, you know, for example, purchasing a home when I could have just put the 3.5% and not have to worry about it, you know? That's the way I see it.
Well, here, and it is what I'm saying. I'm not a guy that's like, oh, you never should have credit, right? I'm not saying don't do it, right? Mm-hmm. There's plenty of successful people that have a credit score that even have healthy debt. That's fine. That's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is it's ridiculous to say that that's the only way to do it. Plenty of people have done it the other way. It's fine. You know, you're one of the things that you're saying that I would completely disagree on. You say, why do it the hard way? I would argue that taking on debt is the hard way. Why would you want to dig this hole that now you have to get out of for this number that now all of a sudden, like, you know,
but you don't have to put yourself in debt to have good credit. If you're 18,
how do you have good credit?
If you're 18, you don't have to put yourself in a hole. You can get one credit card when you're 18 years old, or better yet, if you have the privilege and the luxury where your family is responsible and you trust them, they can add you as an authorized user on their credit cards. And as long as they're making their monthly payments, you are building your credit score before you're even 18. And once you turn 18, you can get your own credit card and put $20, use it only for gas. So whether that's $40, $20, that's it. Pay it off every month. You're slowly building your credit up. You never have to use it more than that. You know, you never have to dig yourself into a hole. Use $20, wait a couple days, pay it off right away. You know, you're building up your credit score.
That's absolutely right. If you have somebody that can help you, right, that, like, why not? Like, if they can give you that pass on their credit, that absolutely. But here's the thing. When you say, hey, here's a credit card at 18 when you don't know any better, and you're going to go, oh, I'm just going to put $20 and I'll pay it off next month, right?
Yeah.
Most people will not do that. This
And
isn't like a
that's the whole
hypothetical.
point.
Most people
That's
don't
the
do that.
whole point of this episode, is for us to talk about, and I guess this is something that we can talk about maybe in another one, is talking more specifically about credit cards and the responsibility of that. And if you guys are interested in that whole thing, please let us know. I'm sure we both have wonderful experiences digging ourselves into debt with credit cards, but that's the whole point of this, is to show and to talk about the importance of understanding the responsibility of a credit card, because like you mentioned before, it's not free money. It's so easy to spend and so difficult to pay off later. So, and that's, for those of you who don't have that privilege and luxury to have your families add you as an authorized user, when you're 18, you can get your own credit card. And again, it's going to take a lot of accountability, but that's where that comes from. It comes from you taking accountability and saying, I don't want to dig myself into debt. I don't want to put myself in a position where I can't get myself out of there, or I'm, putting myself in a position where I can't live life comfortably, air quotes. So it's, taking those steps, especially nowadays where there's so much information everywhere. And, there's a lot of opportunities and places where they kind of simplify it down, because I know financial literacy can be difficult to understand. There's so many resources. So it takes also that person, that 18-year-old, to know, okay, I have my credit card. What do I do with this? Right. So
here's what I'm saying. Like, just like getting out of debt, you have to have this emotional why. People get into debt because of emotional,
oh, absolutely.
Reason. So, if you give me a credit card at 18, the chances of me using it and abusing it are much, much higher than not.
Yeah. Well, that was me. That was me when I was from like 18 to 21 even.
That's most people, right? Even through education, even through all this, most people are still going to use it, and most people are going to abuse it. So that's why I am completely against it. You don't need it. You absolutely don't need it. Like, look, here's the reality, right? You're 18. If you can budget your money from the very beginning, sure, you're going to make sacrifices. Sure, you're not going to be living this extravagant lifestyle. But if you can do that, and you can budget, and you can save money, and you can invest, realistically, you're not buying a house at 20 years old. Most people aren't, right? Say you're shooting for 25 or 30 years old. In that time period, two things should have happened. One, you should have increased how much money you're making from 18 to 25 into 30.
Right.
Two, you should have also been budgeting this whole time and either saving, or better yet, investing your money. And, who's to say that by the time you're 25 or 30, you may have 20% down for a house. Who's to say you don't? Right. If you invest it correctly, you save it correctly, you budget correctly. And obviously you sharpen your skills and you try to make more money so that you budget, your money is bigger at the end of the year. So, but anyway, like, we can move on from this, but what I'm saying is, you don't need debt. It's ridiculous to think that. That's what we've been wired to. And that's why most people have this ridiculous amount of debt. I mean, look, I could tell you many, many, many stories from even people that I know. I have a friend who just put himself to school, not a single dollar of college student debt, worked his ass off and went to school full time, lived probably a very uncomfortable life, but walked out of it, graduated, doesn't have a single dollar of student debt. I have another friend, also has, credit cards, doesn't make a whole ton of money, has zero debt today, right? So to say that you can't do it is ridiculous. You can absolutely do it. And there's a better way to do it. And I would say that that's the way, is don't take on debt at all, right? If you're going to take a debt, and Dave Ramsey talks about this, a lot of people talk about this, the only healthy debt that you should have is if it's going towards an asset that can produce you money, that can hedge against the interest rate that you're paying on that debt. For example, real estate, right? When you buy a home, that's an asset. It can go up in price. You can get appreciation on the home. You can, and by the way, I mean, we don't have to get super into it, right? But what makes something an asset? What you're really looking for is something that's non-duplicatable, right? Because prices are controlled by supply and demand.
And can you go ahead and explain what non-duplicatable is for those that may not know what that is?
Just things that cannot be duplicated, right? So like gold is an example, right? I can't just go and make gold. For as far as we know, it's scarce, right? There's a limited amount, and so you just can't go and make it, right?
Right.
The dollar bill is supposed to be really, you can print money, but that's another story. Real estate, right? Specific real estate, I would say, like if you buy real estate, oceanfront real estate, There's not very much of that property, right? I mean, there's tons of them. There's tons of these assets, right? If you're gonna take any debt, it should be towards an asset that you can use to hedge against that interest rate that you're paying on that debt, right? Mm-hmm. When you're taking on debt, you get a car. It's ridiculous. Not only are you buying an asset, wrong choice of words. Not an asset. When you're buying this freaking liability that the minute you drive it off the lot, I know this firsthand. I experienced it. I bought a 2013 Nissan Sentra back in 2013 when I was 18. I paid $24,000 for that car before the financing, before the taxes. The minute I drove that car off the lot, the minute those tires touched the road, that car was worth $14,000. Mm-hmm. I took a $10,000 loss the minute I drove it off the lot. Yep. And get this, not only did I take a $10,000 loss, but I also was paying 3% of interest on that $24,000. How ridiculous is this? You're going to buy a depreciating asset that will never get any appreciation, and you're also going to pay to borrow money on this non-asset, on this liability. It's what it is, liability, because now you have to buy, now you have to have insurance, now you have to do maintenance, now you have to do all these other things, and you're never going to get a single dollar in return for that debt or whatever.
Unless you're purchasing what are those, like, antique cars that are, like, super valuable today, like the old school 50s ones? What are they called?
And it goes back to
like that type of genre of car? Not genre.
It doesn't have to just be those cars. It can be supercars, right?
Like a Rolls Royce or something like that.
Non-duplicatable assets, right? Why do Hondas and Toyota, Corolla, why do they go down in value? Because they make a whole nother one next year. There's going to be another, I don't even know what the production is, right? But another million of them on the road next year.
Right.
That's why they don't appreciate. You get an older car, well, you're talking about the collectibles, right? Or
collectibles, there we go. That's the word. Right.
Yeah. Sure.
A limited amount.
There's a limited amount. There's only so few left. And so, that's why you want to invest in these non-duplicatable assets, because demand for these, the supply is low. And if there's a good demand for it, then it's a good chance the price is going to be up, right? This could go for supercars. This could go for sports cars. Like, anything that's non-duplicatable is usually a good place to park your money. Mm-hmm. Now we're talking about cars. If we want to bring it back to what we're talking about, you're usually talking about like a daily driver and that kind of stuff. Maybe you're not buying this collectible, right? Because these collectibles are going to be very expensive, probably way more expensive than a brand new car. But you get yourself a car that you can easily buy with cash, no loan. Is this going to be the most comfortable car? Absolutely not. Is it going to be your forever car? Absolutely not. But these are the sacrifices you have to make if you don't want to dig yourself into a hole. The mistake that young people make, I've made this. When I have a kid, I will never let him make this mistake. It was that I bought a brand new car and I tricked myself. I literally emotionally tricked myself into saying this is a good idea, right? I didn't look at the numbers. I just said, no, this is a good idea. At $340, I can make that payment every month. That's not a big deal, right?
And that's actually pretty expensive for a Sentra.
Yeah, probably. I guess so. Now they're worth a lot less, right? You got to keep in mind, when I bought it was back in 2013. It was like a newer car. Anyway, this is my favorite one. I trick myself. I think a lot of people do this. I trick myself into thinking, well, if I take on this debt and I have this new car, I'll work harder because I have to. I'm going to be motivated now to work harder. It's like, how about you work harder without that? You'll have much more money. You'll see much more fruits of your labor if you don't have this ball and chain that you're like using
overhanging debt.
Work harder. You don't need it. You don't.
And you guys, I just think it's so funny because not too long ago, I called Albert. I think I actually texted you and I said, hey, do you think lease to buying is a better option or just financing the car? He literally, not even like 2 minutes later, called me and gave me the same exact speech about how purchasing a car is not a good idea. He's like, why are you going to spend your money on that car? You have a good car already. Like, why are you going to spend your money? So, if you guys are thinking like, is he even like taking, absolutely. He takes his own advice. He lives by what he says. How you hear him right now is exactly like the types of conversations that we have when we talk like on a day-to-day basis. So this man lives what he preaches.
my friend would say, I live my raps.
Yes, there we go.
My raps. If I was a rapper, my lyrics would be true to me.
Exactly.
No, absolutely. I do this. I actually, I have a really good friend of mine, and again, like, I've made these same mistakes, so I'm not sitting here like on this throne like I know everything and I've always made the right choices and I'm perfect. I'm absolutely not. I had a really good friend. I had a really good friend a few years ago. I was, not emotionally where I should be, and I made the bad choice of buying this car that I shouldn't have gotten. And he had that same conversation. He said, "Don't do it. It's a bad idea. It's, all the reasons why you shouldn't do it." And I said, it'll be good. It was early on in my real estate career. I was like, again, tricking yourself, right? These emotional tricks. Like it'll look better when I pull up to talk to clients. They'll respect me more. Blah blah blah. None of it is true.
Mm-hmm.
I drive right now. I drive a 2010 Nissan Maxima with over 100,000 miles on it, with the worst paint job you've ever seen, and I have the most business I've ever had in my career. Versus back when I had this new car, thinking like that was going to get me business. It's not true. It's a lie,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a mistake I made. So what I recently did, not recently, it was almost a year ago. Now I got rid of that car. I sold it, and then I just bought a car in cash. That's how I have this Nissan Maxima. And is it more uncomfortable? I was much more comfortable in my newer car, but I understand, and I have a why now of my goals and where I'm trying to go, and I understand that that's a sacrifice that I have to make.
Right.
I really want to buy a Tesla. These cars are beautiful, but realistically, I won't for a few years until I get to that position. So,
right.
I guess if you can take anything from this, like there's so many practical ways of how you can do things, like numbers and do this and do that.
Yeah.
And I think most people don't talk about, again, it's just that emotional thing. You need to really
you need to
really
hone down
on
your emotions, and if you struggle identifying your emotions, then try to think about where are your finances lacking, why are they lacking, in terms of like where is your spending going. Another thing that you could do, before we wrap up this episode, is if you want to know where your money is going, simply look at your bank statements. Take a note of everything that you spend. Every time you go to Starbucks, every time you put gas, every time you're like, oh yeah, I'll buy some chips. I'll buy this, that, oh, it's just $1, just $2, $3. All those little things add up. It's so easy to go to Starbucks because you just load up $20 or $10 on your card and then cool. It doesn't even feel like you're spending money. All those things add up. So if you want to know where all your money is going, use a day or a week to just spend as you normally do. And then at the end of the week, go through all your statements. If you put everything on your card, or if you're spending money cash because it feels like you're not really spending money, if you're paying cash, make sure you write down everywhere that you go and every time that you spend money, because all those things add up. Once you know how much you're spending a week or a month, however long you decide to do this, look and see what your debt to income ratio is. How much money is going out versus how much money is coming in. Then that's how you can get a better idea about, okay, how are you going to tackle on your budgeting, right? So where do you need to cut out your expenses? What do you need to lower? What do you need to save on? What do you need to invest in? And something that we can definitely talk about is where you should invest. We mentioned a couple of times talking about investments. That's definitely something that you should prioritize. A Roth IRA or a traditional IRA, you can start off as little as $25 a month. If you can make that a priority in your budget to pay $25 a month into an IRA just to start, and then over time increase how much you're paying, that is a good way to set yourself up for your future. And again, this is something that we can talk about more into detail in another episode, because talking about investments is a whole thing on its own. But the only way for you to know exactly where your money is going in and where it's going out is for you to take accountability and take responsibility about that, to see where is your money going, where is it coming from, and what do I need to do to get the hang of it? What do I need to do? What emotions do you need to take care of and address? Like Albert said, all these things are emotional. So what do you need to take care of? This goes beyond just your finances. So if there's things that are, I look about it in like socio-psychological way, what things are triggering you to, spend your money these ways, right? Like what are you trying to suppress, or what are you trying to cope by spending your money this way? So you need to take account for those things. You need to address those things in order for you to be able to really take a look and deal with that emotional side of your finances in order for you to get, a hold of them.
Yeah, you want to have some form of accountability. The beginning is being emotionally tied. The second part is being consistent. How you stay consistent is by being accountable. Mm-hmm. And the only way to be accountable is transparency, right? Like you have to have a way. If I use this app. Here's a plug. I use Pocket.
Not
Pocket
sponsored.
Guard. Let me see. Is it? Yeah, Pocket Guard. I used Pocket Guard. I paid, I think it was $60 or something like that for, I don't remember if it was a year or a lifetime, whatever it was 100% worth it. And what it is it tracks, you link it to your bank account. You can link it to any investment accounts you have, whatever it is that you have. And it helps you track your net worth. It helps you track what you're saying, the spending and the income that's coming in. And so that's a very easy way to keep yourself accountable. I would even segue into saying one really big thing that I actually love telling all my friends. This is something that in the last maybe year, I've really found that's going to really help me, that has already helped me get to the next level, but it's going to help me get even to the next level. And that is when you're first starting off, right? If you're that $20,000 a year person or whatever the amount is, you're trading your time for money.
Right.
You're like, I'm going to give up
Everybody
time,
is.
I'm gonna get money.
If you are working and you're getting paid, you are trading your time for money.
Sure, absolutely. And so at some point, when it could be at any level, to be completely honest with you, you need to trade back that money for some time. Time is your most valuable resource. It's even more valuable than money. And you need to trade it back. And there's many ways you can do this. And so like Pocket Guard, as silly as it sounds, is actually a way, right? Because you could sit there and you could stay accountable by writing down and collecting receipts and doing it that way. That's going to take a long time, right? So, what I found was $60 or whatever that fee was that I paid for the app to have access to the app is worth every penny, because now I don't have to use that time. Now, I don't know how many hours. I mean, if I did the math, I'm sure.
There's a bunch of free apps too that do those things. I think Mint is one of them. It's totally free. And as long as you
that's right. There's a free version of it. I ended up paying for it because the paid version was better. It had so much more functionality and I could do much more. I can create budgets and that kind of stuff. So I would say, even if you paid for it, you're getting your value. Look, if it's $60 a month and you get paid $10 an hour, that's 6 hours. I can promise you in a year, if you're staying 100% accountable to your budget, you're going to spend more than 6 hours tracking this stuff. So it's worth every freaking penny. Right. And, that's what I'm talking. I would say even stuff like this, right? Like not recently, actually been doing this for a few months now. I Instacart a lot, right? And some people might be like, that's unnecessary. That's like unnecessary money.
Do you Instacart? Okay. So I was going to say, do you Instacart like you're ordering or you are working for Instacart?
No, I Instacart my own groceries. Right. And how much am I paying? I think I pay them $11 a month, and then it's like $4 per delivery. So I did the math one time, and on average, I'm paying like $5.50 a delivery, right? And so I was like, okay, if I pay $5, I'm paying somebody $5. Actually, I think I pay like, I did the math. It was like $5.50 or $7, something like that, and that included the tip that I was giving the driver. And if you do the math, you're like, all right, let's say I'm paying this guy $7 to do my groceries. It is way worth my time, because if I went to the grocery store and did that same trip, the drive to the grocery store, collecting the groceries, taking it to the front and paying for it and coming back home and doing all that, I'm doing this for at least an hour, right? Most times you're probably doing it in 2 hours. If I can outsource this for $7, why am I doing this job that's, I wouldn't be at work working for $7 an hour. So why am I doing this job that I could pay somebody $7 to do? That's going to save me 2 hours of my time, right? Like I can use these 2 hours for many, many things. I can use this to improve my skills in whatever job, right? I can use this to maybe to relax, so that when I go back to my job,
honestly, that's a luxury though. And it's important it's a luxury that benefits you and that it's within your budget. It works for you and your budgeting, right? But yeah, let's
this is just like healthcare, right? Like, these are things that matter, right? This is the reason why I'm bringing it up, because that's exactly what the reaction I get from a lot of people. Like, oh, like, you're just being lazy. Like, go get your own groceries. And I go, well, you go do this $7 hour job for 2 hours then. Like, I don't understand why you would want to do that. You don't go to your job and work for 2 hours and get paid $7. If your manager asks you that, you would say, absolutely not. I'm not worth $7 an hour. I don't think anybody on this call, whether you make minimum wage or not, it just doesn't make any sense, right?
Well,
so
it makes
fit
sense
it in your budget somewhere.
If you're busy, if you're working, and the only time that you have to yourself is to go grocery shopping, then
listen, even if you're not, right? Like, anybody that's listening to this, like, think about this. Even if you're not busy, I had this conversation with my dad recently. I put him onto Instacart and I told him on it, and I told him, because he was like, oh, I'm not doing anything today, I'm going to go get groceries. I was like, use my Instacart, do this. And then I told him, like, get your own account And he was like, but I could just do it, right? And I go, yeah, or you could just pay somebody, right? And now you have 2 hours of your time that you can go do whatever. Like maybe you go get better at, maybe you want to go learn how to play a guitar that you've always wanted to do. Maybe you want to go spend more time with the kids, right? You're buying back your time. And those people that are making $20,000 an hour should absolutely be doing this, because unless you want to make $20,000 the rest of your life,
no, those people who are making $20,000 should absolutely be working for Instacart or working some other kind of, side hustle like Instacart, Uber, something like that, where you can make additional income. You should not be spending your money.
Look, if you're making $20,000 a month, you probably shouldn't be Instacarting or Uber or anything like that, because you're not making any money. Like when you take into account how much miles you're putting on your car, the depreciation you're adding on your car, the gas, you're going to be making below minimum wage, guaranteed, right? Like I personally, when I was younger, did it, and I did the math, and I was like, this makes no sense.
Yeah.
I've worked, you don't even have a guarantee.
Instacarting is something that I just cannot be sold on, especially I think it's definitely a luxury. It's not a necessity at all. For some people it's beneficial. Like if you're busy on the go and you can't, order groceries that, have it delivered to you. But someone who has nothing to do on a Sunday, you have the time, save your $7, just go yourself, enjoy the groceries.
It might not be for you. Like you're more than welcome not to do it, but everybody else listening on this, think about it. Spend the $7 and use that time to improve, right? So maybe you get better at your job, or maybe you do whatever, where one day you will be making more money. You will make back those $7 that you spent and then some, because now you're making more money.
That sounds like a false promise, because it's much more than just, at some point you'll make back those $7.
You will, if you improve your skills, right? How do you make more money? By improving your skills, right? If you have no skills, then that's why you end up not having a phenomenal job. As you got an increase in your salary, right? You didn't just get this increase because they love you. You got better at your job, and they said, okay, you're worth this amount of money now.
Exactly.
Right? So if you want to make more money, you need to improve your skills one way or another. And so, what I'm giving people right now, and they don't have to do it. You don't have to do it. Like nobody has to do this. I'm giving you the cheat code. Like this is how people get from A to B a lot quicker.
If any of you actually do this, if any of you start this, anything that we've mentioned on here, please let us know. But like we've mentioned, be consistent with it. Give it about at least 2-3 months before, you start saying, oh, that was hard. It doesn't work, blah, 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 because it does work in terms of a lot of the tips that we've given on here. But the things that Albert and I have disagreed, I would love to hear your guys' feedback, and I would really love to know what you guys think and where you guys stand, just your opinion overall. I feel like this is such a great discussion, and any tips that you guys may have that you feel that other people would benefit from. I think that, this is a community where we can go ahead and share those tips, so we can learn from one another. But yeah, I think we had a lot of great discussions. We talked a lot about, we gave specific examples on how to budget, what we personally do to help us budget for our specific circumstances. We talked about how to get yourself out of debt, or at least start a plan to get yourself out of debt if you are in that debt, the pros and cons of having a credit score, or, we did have that little discussion about credit scores and having debts and credit cards. We talked a lot about balancing, we talked about the cars and, the pros and cons for that. There's a lot of topics that we talked about today. So I think this episode was strictly going to be about budgeting, but overall just became a whole conversation about managing your finances overall. So, Albert, I just want to say a big thank you for making time. It's, late in the PM. So I want to say a big thank you for making time today to be on the podcast. Any last few words or tips or recommendations that you want to give our listeners too?
Yeah. Hey, again, I'm a real estate agent here in San Diego. So if you ever want to have a conversation regarding real estate, how to buy or sell, or if you just have any questions regarding that, follow me on Instagram, DM me. My handle is at Albert, Albert, Quesada, Quezada. So, reach out to me for that. And I would just say, good luck on your finance journey. Everybody has different roads. Some are longer and some are shorter. Really focus on where you want to be in 10, 15, 20 years, and then work your way backwards. Right? So look at the big picture.
Something that my therapist said is, like you said, look at where you want to be 10, 15 years, but something to help you with that is look at things short term, medium term, and long term. So look at, like Albert was saying, look at what your long-term goal is, 10, 15 years. Look at what your medium-term goal is to help you achieve that long-term goal. So 5 to 9 years. Then what is your short-term goal? From 1 to 4 years. Those numbers can vary depending on what your timeline looks like. But like Albert is saying, work backwards, take that little tip that my therapist gave in terms of, making a small blueprint about your timeline. So you have little milestones or little goals at each moment to help you get to your long-term goal overall. So it doesn't seem so overwhelming or impossible to reach.
Yeah, look at the big picture and work your way towards that. I just did a puzzle with my younger brothers this week, and that's how we started, right? We look at the big picture, and then we're like, all right, let's start on the corners and let's start filling our way in, right? That's how you should do it. Look at the big picture and then start working on these small, we started on like a corner, you put those pieces together. Before you know it, you're getting closer and closer to that big end goal. So,
right.
Looking at that 5, 10-year, 20-year plan and working your way backwards is going to really excel you. It doesn't have to just be financially, professionally as well.
Mm-hmm. Could be with anything.
Stuff, so. Yeah, 100%.
So thank you so much, Albert. And for any of you who want to get in touch with him, he's a really, really great real estate agent. I go to him all the time, anytime I have questions about real estate, for my own personal needs. So I highly recommend going with him. I will link his Instagram down below. If you're watching this on YouTube, you should see it somewhere on here on the screen for his Instagram handle. So you guys can go check him out, ask him anything if you're in the San Diego area or in the Southern California region. So thank you so much, Albert. And until next time, I hope you guys have an amazing day. Bye.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.